split between pro and consumer products in terms of percentage that you guys
In the old days, it would be about 50-50.
Okay.
But the times have changed. What's happening in the market, in the pro market today, is that people want lightweight, high-powered amps for touring, that kind of stuff, plus computer control kind of thing. So typically now our pro market really is only studio applications where it's a set requirement. I would say we're probably down to about 20% of our business would be pro now, where at one point it was as much as 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And does that include the speakers and the
that would be just amplifiers, yes. Speaker-wise, I would say maybe 10%, like some of the smaller, the Mini T, that kind of thing's been pretty popular at the studio level, but nowhere near what we're selling into the consumer market.
Yeah, okay. And how many countries are Bryston products sold in currently?
I would say on a day-to-day basis, probably 25. We have so-called 40 distributors, but you get hot and cold, that kind of thing. So I would say probably 25 is on a day-to-day basis we would be dealing with.
Okay. Yeah. And how many of those products? What percentage of the products are sold in the North American market?
Last year 63%. So if you look at North America as our main market, 63% of all sales are still in that main segment of the market. Mm-hmm. And more sales in the U.S. obviously than in Canada, but it usually runs about 3 times the sales in the U.S. that are in Canada. Mm-hmm. So we still have a very strong market in domestic Canada.
Okay, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Axiom? How that started out and where it is today? Because
it's kind of an interesting story. Well, I don't know if you know Ian Calhoun.
Yes.
I met him way back in Floyd Tool days. So when we were all starting out in the early, middle to late 70s, we would go to Ottawa and test the gear. They would be doing their speakers. He would be doing his speakers. And I met him then. And, sort of, hi, how are you kind of thing. We remained friends over the years. And then Andrew Welker was basically working for API. I don't know if you remember API or not.
Yes.
He was working for them, and one day he called me and said, hey, I got a new job. I'm up at Axiom. And I said, oh, kind of neat. So I said, okay, I'll take a drive up and say hello. So I got up there and I said to Ian at the time, I'd like to build a fully active loudspeaker for myself for testing purposes. Mm-hmm. Would you be interested in doing it for me? Because you got the anechoic chamber, you got all this gear, you got Andrew here now. And he agreed. I said, okay, let's build an active system. Long story short, went through 5 different variations of the active system. Finally had something I wanted to hear. People would come over here and say, boy, this thing sounds pretty good. Would you be interested in doing a passive version? Not really. But that's where the Model T came up. Mm-hmm. Because it was going to be one model and black only. That was the whole concept. It had nothing to do with my name. Yeah. It was Model T. And so I called Ian and I said, if we did a passive version, how close do you think you'd come in terms of performance? And he said, I can probably get about 85% of the way there. So we did that. Long story short, people heard it, liked it, said, why don't you make it available? And Christ, within about a year and a half, I guess, we were in the speaker business. And it just evolved like crazy. Well, you got to have a center, James, and you got to have surrounds, and you got to have more than one model. So the whole thing just kind of exploded. And now about 20% of our business is loudspeakers. Huge, okay. Absolutely huge.
And how many models has the line evolved into?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I'm guessing, well, in the A series there's 4 models, and in the T series there's another 7 or 8. So yeah, we're in the 15, 16 models. We've got 3 types of subwoofers. We've got the Model Ts, the Middle Ts, the Mini Ts, and then we got in-ceiling now going as well. So it's really evolved into a full lineup.
Mm-hmm. And how has that relationship evolved over the years?
Initially, it started out as sort of an OEM thing, like, hey, you guys, because basically we designed it from scratch. It wasn't like, hey, let's take the parts that Axiom has already and make our own speakers. Like for instance, we use 8-inch drivers, they don't. The maximum they use is 6.5. Plus, they got to ship worldwide because they're direct. So they've got to look at weight and size of speakers when they start shipping, right? So in our case, we didn't have that criteria. And I wanted an all-out state-of-the-art speaker, so we redeveloped all the designs for the drivers. All the cabinets were totally redesigned, and so what turned out to be sort of started out as always, has really kind of become a partnership now. So we really work hand in hand together now in terms of designs and what are you thinking about for the future, different products and things. So we're looking at my next project with them, for instance, is going to be called the T-Rex, which is going to be basically a full range line source That's
Oh,
what they're-
okay, yeah.
So I'm working with them on that basis, and we've helped them out a little bit in terms of their amplifiers on that side of the equation as well. So it's really become much more of a partnership now than an OEM relationship.
Yes, and of course the upcoming HiFi product that you're working on.
Yeah, that was mainly their thing, and then I sort of said to him, well, is there a way we could stuff in a pair of Mini A's? And he said, yeah, let's give that a shot. So that sort of evolved in that direction based on that as well.
Okay.
So that worked out good, yeah. So there's a sharing of the technology as opposed to they're their company, we're ours. There's much more of it. And to be honest with you, I don't know that there's that many Canadian independent companies left in terms of ownership.
Yeah, yeah.
He's one of the few,
Yes.
and ourselves, that are actually left and are owned by, private individuals.
Essentially private, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's become a really interesting partnership for you guys, and it's allowed you to become more competitive.
Exactly.
I guess on the worldwide stage.
And he has a factory in China as well, and he was doing some of his products over there, some drivers and some that kind of stuff. But it's getting to the point now where the middle class rising up there in terms of the wages and things. That it's actually cheaper now to actually start building things in Canada. Excuse me. And for us, it's great because we're building in Canada, so it's Canadian dollars, Canadian jobs, all of that stuff, and then we're exporting it. In fact, I heard a great phrase the other day: "Built in Canada, made in Canada, sold in China."
Yes.
That's pretty good.
That's
Yes.
good, yeah.
Yeah.